Well, what is good, fam? Welcome to episode 4 of the Human Hope Podcast with your host, Carlos Enrique Whittaker Guzman Ajibol Cabello. I am very, very, very grateful that you guys decided to hop in here for, again, a difficult yet hopeful conversation. I promise they won't all be difficult. Some will be all hope. And sometimes, though, we have to dig into the ditches to find the hope. And that's what we're going to be doing today with our special guest, Dave Gibbons. He has been a mentor of mine for a long, long time and is a leader of the Asian American community out in Orange County, California. He is wise. He's wise beyond his years. He's only, I don't know, Dave, a couple years, 10 years older than me. But he's been through it, and he is the beta test. He is the data points that we need when it comes to what we can do, each and every one of us individually, to stop this violence against the Asian American Pacific Islander community. I don't want to say it's been a heavy week, every single time I jump into one of these things, but it's been a heavy week. Man, so much. Besides the 1 week separation between the Asian Americans that were killed in Atlanta in the mass shooting to the mass shooting that happened, as I record this 2 days ago in Boulder, Colorado. We're up against it. We're facing it. And, everything inside of me, all of like the carnal Carlos, can that be a thing? Can we hashtag carnal Carlos? Can that just become like the flesh part of me? Wants to just kind of throw my hands up in the air and say, you know what? We can't do it. This country can't do it. Like if we can let 21 first and second graders be slaughtered by a weapon of war and not do anything about it, I want to throw my hands up in the air at that point, right? Like we're talking Sandy Hook days. Throw my hands up in the air and go, you know what? If we can't fix it because of that, why in the world are we going to fix it this week? So that's what carnal Carlos feels. But what I've seen the last year of people being fed up with people shrugging their shoulders, politicians shrugging their shoulders. And again, we've seen this with civil unrest that happened after George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. We're seeing it this week. I'm seeing protests begin to rise to protest the rise of violence of our Asian American brothers and sisters. It's given me hope. It's given me hope that, you know what? Maybe this country isn't just going to sit back and let this stuff continue to happen. Because again, be it left or right or straight down the middle, we all know this can't continue to happen. I don't have the answer. So if you're looking for that, you came to the wrong podcast. But hopefully some people maybe that I'll be talking to over the course of the next few months will maybe have some ideas. But something's got to change. Something's got to change. And I know there's people that think, well, we just need better screening. I know there's people that think, we need better, tighter gun restrictions. I know there's people that think we need to ban all the guns, get rid of all the guns. I know there's a plethora of opinions on what needs to happen. But guys, don't you all agree it's time to stop having opinions and it's time to just do something? Because what's happening now, what we've done isn't working. I'm just ranting right now. I'm not providing you solutions. I know the last few weeks I've given you like A plus B equals C solution. This ain't that. It's just, I know what you're feeling. I need you to know that I know what you're feeling. And please know that I know that it's not enough. We're not doing enough. Things got to change. And speaking of change, thank the Lord, the seasons are changing. Winter, I've had enough of you. And spring, I need you here right now. Guys, I'm actually home right now. Speaking of change, I'm in my basement. I'm not in a hotel room or an Airbnb recording this podcast or my parents' house. I'm at home. I've been home for a few days and I feel amazing. I mowed my grass because my grass is starting to grow. Got on my riding lawnmower. I'm checking the spots where the robins build their nests. I'm checking my bluebird box and I'm ready. I'm hearing the birds sing. Change is happening. Life is happening. There is good things happening around us. All it takes is for you to take a look and realize that the world's moving and God's still in control. The birds, they're not stressed out. Sometimes I wish I could be a bird, but I'm excited over the next couple of weeks to start documenting. Hopefully, I mean, listen, I can't make the birds build a nest in my gutters, but hopefully they'll come back and build some nests in my gutter. So hop over to my Instagram page if you want to keep up with the backyard birds. So yeah, guys, make sure that you're taking care of your mental health. Listen, it is heavy. Every week's heavy. It's been heavy for like a year and a half. Actually, it's been heavy a lot longer than that, if we're honest. And so we've got to make sure that we're taking care of our hearts. Yes, be knowledgeable in what's happening in our political climate, in our news cycle. Be knowledgeable, but do not just spend 24/7 looking at this stuff. You've got to, my wife's out there gardening. I'm going to go fly fishing. There's things that we've got to do to keep our mental health healthy and to keep it in check. And so just make sure that you're doing that. Make sure that you're not just consuming content 24/7 that isn't good for you. Now, what I will say is, don't look away and never look back. Like, don't be like, you know what? Like, I heard about the mass shooting, but I'm not going to look at anything else about it, because again, that's coming from a place of privilege that these people and these victims don't have. These victims' families don't have that. So they need us to stand in the gap for them. Go back to the empathy podcast 2 podcasts ago when my friend Rob did that for us. It's a tightrope walk, but it's something that I feel like we're all capable of doing. And I'm here to help you guys do it. So with that being said, let's hop into the conversation with my great friend, Dave Gibbons. Dave Gibbons is honestly one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. I've been following Dave's journey for a long time. He's been mentoring me without knowing it for 20 plus years, maybe knowing it for the last 7, because I finally started to bother him. But he's a coach, he's an advisor, he's a speaker, he's an author. Let me read you what it says on his website. He says, "I love working with people who feel like they are misfits. I take an X-Men Academy approach where we find mutants who sometimes feel out of the mainstream. Hey, that's me. Yet see their abnormality and know they have a superpower. The work I do is customized, holistic, east-west, and incorporates SQ, which is spiritual intelligence." Dave, he advises venture capital companies in Silicon Valley, literally like NBA stars, Hollywood film production groups. But why he is here this week isn't to advise us on how to become better at whatever our jobs are. He's helping us become better humans and teaching us how to support the Asian American Pacific Islander community, of which he is one. And his words are powerful. I need you to grab a notebook, a pen, or your iPhone. Like, if you're driving, I want you listen while you're driving, but then go back and listen to this when you can actually write some things down, because this is going to be transformative for my son's life, my Korean son, who I'm desperate to grow up in a world where 3,800 anti-Asian hate crimes are not done to his community over the course of 1 year, when over the course of a little under a century, we had 5,000 lynchings of Black Americans. I mean, let that stat stagger you for a second. I mean, that's crazy. From 1877 to 1950, there were close to 5,000 lynchings of Blacks in America. In the last year, there's been 3,800 specifically targeted anti-Asian hate crimes. It's got to stop. And we're the ones that can stop it. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with my great friend, and now your great friend, Dave Gibbons. Dave, right. Thanks for hopping in with us here at the Human Hope Podcast. I texted you 2 days ago, and you're like, absolutely. Like, I'm all in. So thanks for jumping in with us.
For sure. I love you. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in your mission, bro. So it's great hanging with you.
Thanks, man. So I want to get up front and real right away. You are, you're kind of like my Asian pastor, and I've read all your books and I've listened to your messages, and and then almost like mentor as well. Like I follow you and kind of what you do in the business world and things. And so I brought you on here because you are being a loud voice for the Asian Pacific Islander community. And right now, right. I don't even want to say right now there's a crisis. There's actually been a crisis for a long time. Right. And right now we just happen to peel the lid back off of the tuna can and now we can see it. So why don't you, Dave, just for a second, tell us about kind of your heartbeat with this before we go into like maybe your history with this. Tell us a little bit about, how your heart is raging right now in this moment.
Well, it's crazy. This triggers you right away. And like you said, it's not anything new.
Yeah.
It's been going on for, a couple hundred years in our history in America, at least. And then if you go to Asia, it's thousands of years. You see the conflicts, between even Asian countries, because a lot of people don't realize it. But one of the ideas is that we're a monolith, that all the Asian Americans are alike. But in some cultures, like Japanese Korean, it's like black and white. Yeah. And so it's pretty intense. But I think this really roots to me back to my mom, where I saw what she had to go through when she immigrated to America. And she just put her head down and was quiet. And she was a vivacious, like vibrant woman. She'd light up a room when she walked into it, but I saw her just work like a dog, like 12-hour shifts, standing all day long. Varicose veins started getting worse as she got older. And, and then I saw how she just started deteriorating after the divorce. My dad had an affair, and I saw how no one really knew how to help her.
Wow.
And so she was like this misfit person. So it brought back all these memories of suppression, this working hard, not saying anything.
Wow. I think the working hard, not saying anything is at least, okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but at least from my perspective I've got a Korean son. Okay. So my son is Korean, but he's American, right? We adopted him when he was, a few months old, right? So he's as American as it gets. But I'm going to talk about that with you later. Sorry, I'm gonna. There's all kinds of things I want to talk about, man. But I feel like my Asian American friends have not spoke up for the sake of not rocking the boat. Almost, it's almost like that there was just maybe. You watched your mom and maybe even, and you've experienced it for so long, this hate, but tell me why you think there was never more of a public uproar. Maybe there was an uproar that I just wasn't privy enough to see. Does that make sense? The question I'm asking, like what is the deal with maybe not wanting to rock the boat per se?
Well, if you just look at Asian culture with our parents, that's just how we're raised, because it's based on the shame-based culture.
Wow.
And so you don't want to dishonor people by disrespecting them publicly. So things are more private. And then also the conversation is more nuanced.
Yeah.
Where, in America, you're very direct. Like, here's the issue, the corpus of the issue. You go right directly through it as an American.
Yeah.
Whereas if you think of the issue as like the sun, the planets are more like how we communicate as it revolves around the sun.
Yes.
We nuance the idea. So, if we say yes, it may be a yes, but maybe really a no.
Right.
It depends how you say it. Well, I think it's unearthed things.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see more of it just coming out, because it's all there. You see it done passive aggressively, like typically in culture, or we're going to show you by our workaholism. And like in Korea, what happens is it's like Japan, Korea, there's a workaholic type of mindset. And then they don't even go home till like sometimes wee hours of the morning, because they're out drinking with clients. That's part of the culture.
Wow.
And so a lot of it's numbed down.
Yeah.
But so that's how they deal with it, because that's the culture. We don't, again, bring it out.
Yeah.
But in America, what's unique is the Western influence is all about amplifying your voice and make it known what you're really feeling. So this generation, who's very social media savvy, I mean, they're all over it, and they're inspiring us older ones. Like, say, hey, why aren't you guys speaking up now? This is America. And, even though we're Asian, our elderly are getting killed.
Yeah.
Our fathers are getting their face flashed from ear to ear on the streets, and then our 6 Asian women are getting killed in Atlanta. it's time to speak up. Yeah. It's almost like, to me, it reminded me of the George Floyd moment last year, where that just wrecked our nation. You could feel the pain, but for me as an Asian, it unearthed so many deep feelings of like, dude, why have I been quiet, even with my Black brothers and sisters? Why haven't I spoken up more? And so I think the same's happening in the Asian community.
You've always been a voice for justice, but to watch you stepping into, I mean, you're going to like city council meetings now. Like I'm like, look at Dave Gibbons is like, where's the megaphone? Like you're there, and so let's do this for a second. Maybe take us back to, did you grow up in America?
Yeah, mostly. I was born on an Air Force base in Seoul, Korea. My mom was married or with another man, had my older sister.
Yeah.
She met my dad, who was a young soldier, Air Force, and then we came to the States.
Okay.
I went about 2 or 3.
Okay, 2 or 3. So, and were you primarily in Southern California?
No, I was in primarily in Arizona, but then I also lived in the South.
You did?
Underground, I went to the South to a very liberal school called Bob Jones University. Hey. So that was like the Christian university from my fundamentalist background,
Yeah.
And so at that time, it was the biggest Christian university in America.
Wow.
But that's where I was like really straight up dealing with racism.
Okay. Okay, so let's go there. So let's go. Yeah. We're college Dave. You're at Bob Jones University, and you're dealing with what is dealing with racism as an Asian in the 90s or whatever it was in the 80s look like in the South? Because we get a lot of stories of Black people in the South in the 80s and the 90s, like what it looked like for them. Was it more subtle? Was it just as blatant? Like, what was it for you?
It's subtle. But there are lines being drawn.
Wow.
You don't realize it. What it came down to me is I realized there's a Southern hospitality until you went to date my daughter. So see that to me, that was like the measuring point to me is like, okay, would you let me date your daughter?
Wow.
If not, we got a problem.
Wow.
And so that was a key. The other thing I saw that was so pronounced was like we would do these, they teach you how to do evangelism the hardcore way. You've probably been a part of that. Yeah. And they would say, hey, if someone comes to Jesus, if they're Black, tell them to go to this church, this Black church.
Wow.
Not this white. And I go, I never had experienced that in Arizona.
Wow. Yeah.
But then I go, wow, this is very pronounced and it's subtle. And then it got to the point where it got real when they called me into the Dean of Men office and said, hey, you can't date Caucasian.
What?
Yeah.
What?
They had a no interracial dating policy.
What? This wasn't the 40s, bro.
I know, this was the 80s.
Wow.
It was the 80s. And it was crazy, because what was a kind of catch-22 for them at that moment was that I was supposed to be half white and half Korean. Yeah. And I say supposed to because I thought I was. Right. And then my brother looks more white and he's definitely half white, half Korean.
Yeah.
But he was able to, even with that understanding from their mindset, he was able to still date white because he looked more white.
Your brother.
And then, my brother. And I wasn't able because I looked more Korean, even though culturally, Western.
Yeah. And because your father was white.
Yeah, my father was white.
And so,
I didn't know he really was. My birth father was not white. I found it a couple years ago, but
yeah. Isn't that the case though? That, and this is what I found is my friends were like, "Well, Carlos, I don't see you. You're just Carlos. Like I don't see you as Black Carlos or Mexican Carlos. Like you're just Carlos to me." So, and I'm always like, well, I'm glad that you have that opportunity to see me that way, as opposed to every single day that I get to exist in my body. I am not that to people when I walk in the gas station or when I walk, to whatever.
I remember walking into a McDonald's in Wisconsin with some Asian friends.
Yeah.
You would know some of these guys. It was just like about 3 or 4 of us.
Okay.
These guys are all leaders in like different academies or whatever. We literally walked in and the whole McDonald's restaurant got quiet. And a child goes, "Look, Mom."
Wow.
It's like some type of farm animal or something. it was ridiculous. But I think
That's
there's a lot of that going on that people just don't say.
mm,
And you can see by body language, if you're intuitive at all, that
yeah,
there's a shunning, or there's like a condescension in
yeah,
terms of how they look, or fear
yeah,
potentially.
yeah. Okay, so I mean, what this does is it parallels to the 80s. Again, that was not long ago, and so there's no way. I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that this has somehow been, you know, pushed out of American culture and of our DNA and of what we're doing. So, you know, for my listeners, we're going to fast forward to 2021. I think a lot of them need to realize that, hey, if you are, and this isn't just a Southern thing, but I'll be honest, I think it is more pronounced, more visible in the South, maybe, you know, maybe covered a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
But so I've got, you know, listeners in the South, and they may be thinking like, oh, but I'm not, you know, I'm not racist. I'm not, you know, I don't think that way about, like, what are some things that they can do to maybe uncover some maybe hidden biases that are inside of their heart? You know, like, does everybody need to do some sort of inner gut check, inner soul check when it comes to, and I'm specifically talking about Asian Americans. I'm not talking about, we can talk about Black people later. I'm talking about Asian Americans. You know, do you feel like maybe everybody needs to have some sort of dialogue with themselves about their views and maybe some biases that are inside of them?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of this, I think, comes from just normal human relationships.
Yeah.
And so my encouragement is, you know, you probably have some Asian American friends or someone that you may know, whether it's in your network or your business place. Take the time to know their story. Have them share about their family, and then ask them about prejudice and racism. Did they ever experience it? And it's like, you know how in the Black community, it's the talk you have to have with a kid, right?
Right.
There's that talk we all know about. Well, Asians, we never had that talk. Like, and I was thinking, dude, we need to have that talk first internally, but then also I think with the community at large, we need to have a conversation, because no one really knows the deep stories of what you do if you're an immigrant, I think, especially, but if you're looking different, it's taken to another level.
Yeah. Yeah. So 2021 happens, and 2020 happens, and tell me about when you begin to hear China virus, when you begin to hear, tell me about the reality in Dave Gibbons' life when that began to be what was coming out of the leader of our country.
Well, he was lighting the flames. He was gassing us right there. Because if you look at movements, you know, everybody's looking at the killer potentially right now. I said, no, it started before the killer in Atlanta. It started with a culture that was created from our leadership that started impugning and also being falsely critical of Asian Americans. You know, never before have we seen this, you know, with a president, you know, that they would liken like a virus to a group of people. But that started gaslighting us right there. The culture started fomenting with this anger and this resentment. Now you see the spillover. So is it any wonder that people would start killing us and pushing our elderly to the ground and beating us up? It's no, you set the atmosphere up, man. Because if you work in a business, you know this. But you know the culture is the most important thing, man.
Yeah.
And you know it's not just the OKRs, the objectives by key results, but it's the culture you're creating that really helps produce a healthy company or not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the elderly. Honestly, the elder abuse up until what happened in Atlanta, I don't feel like people get it. I don't feel like people understand how damaging that is to a culture, how damaging that when you're targeting the elderly, when you're targeting the saints. Talk to us a little bit, Dave, about maybe the feelings before Atlanta happened, and then after Atlanta happened. So before Atlanta happened, are you just trying to like yell like, "Hey guys, look what's happening! Like this is happening to us." And then maybe once Atlanta happens, you know, are you like, you know, told you so? Like this is actually what's happening. Like, tell us a little bit about Is there still fear as Asian Americans are walking around? Is there fear of their grandparents being abused? Like what are the feelings right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of fear. If you listen to the kids, the high school kids, the elementary kids, there's grave concern for the parents and grandparents. I think before the Atlanta event, you had the activists aware of it, because anybody working with Black Lives Matter or injustice movements, you could already see it starting to fire up.
Yeah.
And so I think what Atlanta did is, I hope it's almost like a George Floyd moment in a positive way, where it just galvanizes the community. And so we're starting to see that now. You're starting to see the rallies occurring. Yeah. We're having now private meetings. Like, when I started working with BLM, these activists are amazing. They put together these 20,000 people rallies within several days. Wow. They just go and do it. And so I just said, you're seeing these meetings now pop up, and watch out. I tell people, watch out. You woke up a sleeping giant.
Yes.
You're messing with some people that once they get together, you can't stop them.
Oh yeah.
And already people don't realize this, but I don't know if you saw this, but I did a walk from from Charlottesville to Black Lives Matter Plaza, 130-mile walk. And I walked with some pollster type people, that are trying to get recruits for their party to vote for their politician.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, hey, you always mention black and white statistics. Why don't you ever, or brown, but I go, why don't you mention Asian? And he kind of didn't really address it. And I said, is it because there's not that many in your mind's eye? And basically he said they're statistically insignificant.
Wow. And
if you look at America, it's because we have 6.5%, Asian American population.
Okay.
And again, typically our culture is not just going to push it out there.
Yeah.
But people don't realize this, that we're 20% of the frontline workers in the health sector.
Wow.
Nurses, doctors, PAs.
Yeah.
20%, man. These guys are putting their lives down in the quiet,
crazy.
Saving your parents and grandparents, and your kids on a daily basis before the COVID. And then we're 50%. I said we're 50% of the workforce in Silicon Valley.
Wow.
50% technologists. These are the guys that create the social media platforms.
Absolutely.
And I said, we're 23 million strong in the US.
Yeah.
And I looked at a recent Pew study because I wanted to see what's going on. Right. Asian Americans are the fastest growing ethnic group in America right now.
Really?
And by 2055, they said we will be 38% of the population of the US. We will surpass Hispanic, Latinx.
Wow. Wow.
So I said, you guys don't mess, because already people are scared too. I think there's this other side hey man, these Asians are taking over. They're coming.
They're coming.
I said, yeah, they're coming, but don't mess.
That's right. Don't mess. You guys are coming. America. Oh my gosh. I guess I don't think people understand the beauty of this place is that it's going to keep shifting. It's going to keep going to keep melting. It's not white forever. I'm sorry, but the end is near for, of that being the predominant culture in America, especially as races marry each other. And as, that's just not going to be the power structure in America anymore. I love dearly my white brothers and sisters. They're all listening to my podcast right now with everything inside of them. But I'm not coming. Yeah, we love white people. We're not coming after you. That's not the thing. But what's happening is the face of America is shifting. And so that's why for me, there's such a passion for my white brothers and sisters to understand me, to understand you, because they're going to have to, because guess what? Their grandkids, my grandkids are going to be living in a completely different America than I grew up in.
Totally, man. Yeah, we're a nation of immigrants. Come on.
Yeah.
You just got to go back a couple of generations. I tell every white person here. And then, hey, we're all invading on Native American land, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like come on.
Yeah.
So it's look back in history of where we are, that nation, and we are a nation that comes together. That's the beauty of our nation, is the diversity.
Yes. It is beautiful. And it's not a scary thing. That's the thing is whenever I see anybody scared about immigrants coming, about more people coming to America, I'm like, well, there's probably something buried beneath that fear that you probably need to call out.
Yeah. And if you just look from a purely economic perspective, right, and global economy, when you have the slowdown of immigration of these younger leaders, you have slowdown of birth rates, like in Japan and some of these other Asian countries, which are really strict or have cultures of maybe not having as many children.
Yeah.
What happens is you see a slowdown in the economy. You see the GDP suffering. But when you see nations that are like opening their doors to the immigrant, these are some of the most they're the hungriest people on the planet. They're the entrepreneurs. And they're going to create companies where your kids can have jobs. Yeah. And you'll work alongside of them. Yeah. And so to me, that's the beauty of the nation is you're getting this constant influx of creativity and hunger that raises the bar. It's not going to lessen jobs for you. It's going to create jobs for America.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I missed it and I was so mad that I missed it, but you've been kind of talking about it. You had a clubhouse and I saw that you were having it and I couldn't hop on, but I love the title. And this is actually maybe where I want the meat of this conversation to be. It said, AAPI, beyond prayers and thoughts, it's time to act. Okay. So I wasn't in there for that conversation, but I feel like that conversation needs to be had because it's past the time. You know what? Thoughts and prayers for the Asian community in America. We're going to pray for them. And then we're going to go to the next thing. No. What is the action that needs to follow our intention? So let's get real practical here. What are some practical action things that we can do, that I can do, that the people listening to this podcast can do to stand up and rise up for you and your community?
Well, first one is be vigilant. We talk about having vigils. Vigilant means to make yourself awake. Wow. And awake's not bad to me. To be woke is not a negative term. So we have
seriously.
It's good to be awakened. We talk about that being born again. That's the beauty of being. So to be woke is good to me. So I'd say the first thing is, make sure your eyes are wide open. You listen to the stories and you know their names. So, even for a moment now, no Soon Chung Park, no Hyun Jung Grant, no Soon Cha Kim, no Young A Yu, no Xiao Zhe Tong, no Dao Yo Feng. These are the 6 Asian women that were killed in Atlanta. Know their stories. Just don't dismiss them because they worked at a massage parlor. Because the truth is, in Asia, massage parlors are like common. There's things called jinjabams, like in Korea, where it's normal to go to spas, just to work out and then get a therapist to work on you. And so, again, know their names, know their story. Don't believe just what the media says and how they're stereotyping things. The second thing is, I would say, know the history. That's what I love about California. Just like came out with something that they're going to require, I think, in the high schools, ethnic studies, and so, which is awesome. Wow, where you see the cultures. Yeah. So there's a 5-part series I think on Asian Americans coming out. They're going to release for free again, really, on PBS. Okay. Yeah, watch that. Watch the story because you'll be surprised that the railroad from California to I think it was Utah. Yeah. They built the transcontinental railway system. They were mostly Chinese laborers in the 1850s.
Oh yeah, no, I went to preach at Jesus Culture in Sacramento, and my wife and I went on this hike up towards Tahoe, and it was along these abandoned railroad tracks, like up on the side of the mountain, and like Donner Pass, and so there was a plaque up there that, and again, nobody told me this. But it was Chinese immigrants that built that entire railroad, the whole thing. Exactly. And I had no idea.
Exactly. And they were slaves, basically. In fact, they said it. The people that were business leaders that said these guys are like our slaves. They're curs to us. These guys they just eat rice and they pack themselves in rooms of 20 people. And so all this negative hostility. And then it rose to like 1882 where you had like the anti-immigration bill, exclusion act for Asians, but specifically targeting Chinese. For 10 years, Chinese could not immigrate here. And then those who were here couldn't get citizenship. It's the first time the U.S. government, from what I know, was like they specifically targeted an ethnic group and excluded them.
Wow. Well, and not to mention everything from World War II and all of the internment camps. And I hate that it took this, what's happened in the last few months with Asians for me to really start looking and diving deep into the conversation. But we were in Seattle for spring break a couple days ago, and I went to Bainbridge Island. Little did I know about them removing all of the Asian Americans from Bainbridge Island, making them, shipping them over to the desert in California. And then they have to stay there for 4 years. They sell all their property. And so I'm filming this, Dave, on my Instagram, and I'm actually like showing people, and the utter amount of, dozens and dozens of people that were like, I've never heard this. I had no idea this happened. Wait, America had Asians in camps? Wait, what are you talking about? It's just not taught.
120,000.
120,000.
Of Japanese men, women, and children put in internment camps where they smelled the stench of farm animals that were in their dormitories.
Wow.
They also lost, Carlos, they lost their businesses. They had to sell their properties.
Wow. Did they ever get paid back for that?
There was some reparation, but nothing compared to what billions of dollars that'd be worth today.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to it. It was pennies compared to what they deserved.
Wow.
And so, this is, and then people don't know, like, even from a heroic perspective, like during World War II, there was the most decorated military unit in American history was the 442nd Regiment Combat Team.
Wow.
That was primarily made of Japanese Americans.
No way.
A lot of them from Hawaii.
Wow.
And there's the most decorated. They said they had something like, I forget the amount of numbers, but crazy amounts of awards this group won. It was so significant. But no one knows that they're the most decorated from World War II.
Nobody knows that. Well, now they do. Now the Human Hope listeners do.
Yeah, but they gave their lives up. And this is in the midst of the Japanese American prejudice when their families are put in internment camps.
Oh.
And then when they came home, they still had racist attitudes toward them. It's just like the black community. Same thing happened to the black community.
Yeah.
They didn't get the same GI Bill type of benefits that when they came home. Same thing happened with these Japanese soldiers.
Wow. Stay vigilant. Know history. Anything else?
And then third, I would say engage the story from your friends.
Okay.
And engage the story, because this is really key. I was listening to Sung Chan Rao, really amazing academic. But what I derived from it was, he said there's like a three-legged stool for change and movement. So one is like an individual approach where we have our individual responsibility. The second is a systemic transformation approach, which is justice oriented. You're dealing with government, economics, the academy, that type of thing. But he said the third one, and I go, this is brilliant. The third one has to deal with the narrative. It has to deal with the story.
Wow.
Like, what is the story that we're promoting? What's the story that we're telling, the truth? And so he gave an example, like if you had slavery, that was the story. And then it changed because of Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln. Yep. Then you had Jim Crow, and then you had Martin Luther King Jr., Civil Rights Movement.
There's the story.
And then you have white supremacy, Christian nationalism, and then Trumpism.
Wow.
And so that story started to take root in America. That's why you're seeing this whole gross stuff that was underneath, the belly of our nations all coming out. It was there. Yeah. We just didn't see it as evidently.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's the story of Asian Americans then? What's the story that we need to be engaging specifically?
I would say that these are some of the most beautiful, brilliant people on the planet. They are the majority of the planet. If you take a lens outside of just America and we're the center of the universe, if you look at the creative, I travel a lot. If you look at the creative energy from technology to modernization, because they didn't have all that years ago like America did, what you now have in America is an antiquated systems of infrastructure. Yeah. Whereas in Asia, they're putting down all the the G5 lines, all the technology, the modernizations, they're at like next level. Yeah. If you look at culture, dance, music, film, look at who's winning the Oscars or who's getting nominated. With Chloe, with Nomadland, and you look at Minardi with the Korean filmmaker. You look at Dan Lin, even from a Western perspective, with Ryback Ranch, creating the Lego Movie, Aladdin, The Two Popes, Sherlock Holmes, It series, the horror films.
Yeah.
They're at the forefront of creativity, fashion, design, culture making, and then they're also in the throes of of the engagement of civil rights activism, but also within government and health sectors and science.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like they do the work. These are the people you want to be your friends.
Right.
These are the people that you want to learn from, and they're beautiful. They're humble. A lot of them.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of this is, it is DNA, man. My son is the most humble, beautiful, caring soul on planet Earth. And people see it. And I'm like, man, he didn't get that from me.
No, come on, you're humble.
Oh yeah. Well, not like him, man, not like him. And, and so, tell me this. I mean, that's great. I mean, that is there's some work right now. Every listener listen to this, stay vigilant, know the history, engage the story. That's how we move forward. Right.
And then one more thing I would say too is like maybe advocate or ally, just like the Black community encouraged us, like just become an ally. And so what does that mean is show up at the rallies if you can, talk to the politicians, vote, make sure things are pronounced. Like if there's an incident in your neighborhood, make sure people know about that incident and that we're doing something about that, because it's local, global type of thing.
Sure.
And so to me, become that ally that comes alongside of, because to be silent again is to be complicit.
Yeah.
The worst thing is when you have I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's like when you're getting attacked and you're just getting whammed and slammed by people, and then your friends say nothing.
Yes, it's the worst.
It's the worst. And Martin Luther King talked about that. It's like the worst pain in the world is your friends didn't even stand up for you.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, as an Asian American, I'm not expecting that. Because I think part of it is we have to own this moment.
Yeah.
We have to activate, regardless we get praise or criticism. We have to own it and say, this is our time to build upon what Black Lives Matter and our civil rights leaders have done, and to walk with them, but not say that they have to do this with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's even, I love that you took it down to the local level and took it down to kind of how you can be an ally, but let's just talk about friends, like your friends, right? So relationships that you already have as an Asian American, like is it weird if one of your Black friends or white friends or people that aren't, from your culture come up to you and ask you these things? Because I feel like that there's a trepidation initially, I think, from anybody to be like, well, is it weird to ask my Asian American friend, like, hey, what's your reality like? Like, are they going to be offended? Everyone's tiptoeing these days, man. So like tell us, like, is that okay?
I think so. I think it shows empathy, that you care.
Yeah.
I think even if it seems haphazard to you, or you're concerned, I think most people are just glad that you're asking.
Yeah.
And so they may respond differently, but it's a sign that you care if you ask.
Yeah. No, I agree.
One thing you mentioned too, just to bring back the idea, is with your son. And it brought back a memory when you mentioned him, because I was called like a banana, like yellow outside, white inside. And that's what I affectionately called myself. Yeah, I'm banana, man. People ask me, hey, what race are you? Like, well, I'm yellow outside, white inside. I'm like a banana. And it's kind of something we just joked about.
Sure.
And I reflected upon that even during this past year. I go, dude, I just accepted that, kind of to laugh a little bit, to joke around, and to calm the ethnic weirdness about it all.
Yeah. But
the truth is, man, even your son, he has Asian culture in him. There's a concept called epigenetics where, within DNA, you have human characteristics that are passed on in your genes. So they said there's thinking studies now that there can be even memories that are passed on in your genes.
I believe it.
And so to me, it's like, when you're in the womb, when you have the genetic code, there's traumas, there's things that you go, why do I have like a panic attack about this?
Right.
Why is this person? I think there's things in our DNA, we don't even know what's going down. So that's why I said to say we're just white inside or yellow. I said that's not completely accurate because no matter if I know it or not, I have this culturally Asian thing going on in me.
So I'd like to end these conversations with, the podcast is called Human Hope, and just asking you, Dave, where are you finding your hope? How are you seeing hope? Do you have hope for the future of Asian Americans in this country? Where are you pulling hope from these days?
That's a great question. I think I pull hope from one, just like look at the next generation. Yeah. And I like how it's raw and they're getting back to the essentials.
Yeah.
They're like, even though they talk, there's a lot of talk of mental health. It's actually, they're the healthiest mentally that I've ever seen.
Wow.
Even though it seems like it's crazy because they're always admitting their mental health problems. I said, no, they have a language for it that they're coding and it's good. Yeah. I wish I had that code when I was younger. I didn't know what was going on.
Yes.
So I'm inspired. I have a ton of hope in the next gen. I'm at these rallies.
Yeah.
And I see these kids like speaking eloquently. And literally, man, I don't know what goes on. I just start crying like a baby. It's like when you see your kids doing something. And
yes.
I just start getting wrecked. Every rally I go to, seriously, I cry at every rally.
Yes.
And so that inspires me as the next generation of young people who are activists. And they don't care about the money. They don't care about the fame. As they show that when they go online on social media, they don't dress up. They just, they don't put any makeup on. They say, hey, this is me, man. I love that. I love it.
That's hope. Man.
The other hope I have is, it's in my faith, of course. I do believe in the spirit. There's a lot of weird stuff out there that I don't buy into. There's a lot of goofy stuff. And then on the evangelical side, it's just sometimes intellectualized the faith and ritualized. But there's this element that I really believe, whether one's a follower of Jesus or not, that there's this like imago Dei, that we're all made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And that we reflect, I don't think it's the physical characteristics as much as his moral character.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, to me, the beautiful part is I think there's a part of every human that reflects his power, where it's almost like we have perfection running through our veins.
Wow.
And so with all this brokenness and deconstruction of our bodies and of our society, God saw fit that he allowed his perfection still to be in us. Wow. And so you'll see these transcendent moments with athletes, with artists, where you're just like your jaw drops and you're in awe, you're lost in a moment. It's like you're taken to a heavenly place. Absolutely. And I believe that's like the image of God. So I look for those moments.
Yes.
So I see that. So that's what makes my day exciting every day, no matter what justice work we're doing, no matter what. I'm looking for that beauty, not just the brokenness.
Yes. Oh, and those Imago Dei moments don't have to be on a Sunday morning at 9 a.m. at whatever First Evangelical way. You're saying that those things are available to us all day, every day.
Every day. And see, that's the problem, I think, because of the way we're trained in the West is binary, our faith, our spirituality, and our work.
Yeah.
Whereas in the East, it's so integrated, it's all together.
Yeah.
And so you can hold something in tension that there's pain, but yet there's joy.
Yeah.
And we do that in marriage. We do that with our kids. We do that in suffering. You can have these dual emotions at the same time.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's the same when it comes to our faith, man. And this is what changed my life. And that's why I started, like you, putting a lot more attention into this real life that I'm going to serve in real world.
Yeah.
And, if I do church stuff, that's great. But my main game's in the marketplace, loving the artists, walking with those who are fighting justice, helping the entrepreneurs. So I'm living life, but I have those eyes of like faith, those eyes that, to me, I call them like Narnia eyes, right? Where you wake up with wonder, saying, "Man, what's going to go on today?"
Yes, Narnia eyes. You need to put that on a T-shirt, man, Dave. That's so good, dude. I'm just honored. This was so good for me. If another person doesn't even hear this, but me, this is blown on mine. You're so incredible. So anyway, thanks for talking to all of us here at Human Hope, buddy. We really appreciate you.
Love you, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
Guys, please go follow at Dave Gibbons on Twitter, on Instagram. Let him know how grateful you are for his work and his words to us. Something that I would love for you guys to do is head to stopaapihate.org. That's stopaapihate.org. And this website is put together by a sociologist in San Francisco, and it's got all the data, all the steps, but also like what you can do when you see how you can report an anti-Asian American hate crime, how you can report it. And it's just got a lot of great resources. So head over to stopaapihate.org. And again, I'm so honored that you guys took the time to hang out with us on the Human Hope Podcast. Please subscribe. If you haven't left a review on Apple Podcasts, will you please take 90 seconds to do that today? Honestly, it helps so much. I know you don't believe it, but trust me, it helps. So please, if you love the show, I'd love a 5-star review. I'd love for you to type a few words as to what the show means to you. And we'll be back next week, Thursday morning, same time, same place. From your host, Carlos Whitaker, thank you so much. And let's have a little bit of hope this week.